Thank you. Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'd like to call the Langley City Council call the May 10th, 2021 regular council meeting to order and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Masqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. And for any members of the public who are in attendance and watching these proceedings, welcome. And just a reminder to keep your mics and your cameras turned off while you are in attendance. So I am Mayor Val Vandenbroek, and with me today I have Councillor Paul Albrecht, Councillor Terry James, Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Nathan Bahal, Councillor Ruby Storteboom, and Councillor Rosemary Wallace. And for staff today, we have our Chief Administrative Officer, Francis Chung, Darren Light, our Director of Corporate Services, Carl Johansson, our Director of Development Services, Rick Baumhoff, our Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment, Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services, Kelly Kenny, our Corporate Officer, Scott Kennedy. Oh, we have two here. We have Assistant Fire Chief Scott Kennedy? Is that correct? And then Roy Thompson, our Fire Chief. Okay. Right, so let's go on to the adoption of the May 10th, 2021 regular agenda. Councillor Storteboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd be happy to ask for an addition to the agenda. It's just a good news report from the Downtown Langley Business Association.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
You have a Councillor Bahal?
I'll just second it if that's a...
Okay, all right. I don't think anybody would be opposed to that. It's a good news story, so we should be sharing it. So thank you for adding that. So can I get a motion that the May 2nd or May 10th, sorry, I don't know why I'm doing that, 2021 be adopted with the friendly amendment as circulated?
So moved.
Started Albrecht, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. So we are starting off with a committee of the whole, and the meeting provides council the opportunity to hear input from the public and allows council a greater opportunity to speak to and debate specific agenda items. Motion that council commence the committee of the whole. We're in seconder. Councillor James, Councillor Storteboom. Okay, so first up, we have development permit number 0320 5724 and 5744 Glover Road. And I believe Mr. Johansson, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This development permit application for this C1 downtown commercial zone site involves a 6-story residential building with 70 residential units, 3 of which are ground-oriented live-work units along Glover Road. If approved by council, this redevelopment will create a landmark building complete with modern lighting features at this highly visible location along the city's proposed Innovation Boulevard, and the application received the support of the advisory design panel. This application includes some proposed variances regarding some of the setbacks in order to place the building well into this highly urban context. And the proposed 3.1% parking reduction is considered relatively minor given its close proximity to the city's existing transit exchange and its high frequency of transit routes, and being within a 5 to 10 minute walk of the 203 Street future SkyTrain station, and staff support these variances. Thanks for the opportunity to provide this overview, and I believe the applicant is here if they wish to provide a more substantive overview of their application, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I believe that Stephen Bartok and Noel Lim from Keystone Architecture are here to make a presentation on this project.
Hi, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. My name is Noel, and I'm the project coordinator on this project. And my partner here is Stephen Bartok. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
All right, I'll start. As Carl so succinctly noted, this is a 70-unit project with a mix of studio to 2 beds, which include 3 live-work studios on the ground level and 5% adaptable units. There's also 98 parking stalls, 2 of which are EV charge stations, and the remaining stalls would all be pre-wired for level 2 EV charging as well. There's a storage unit per storage locker per unit, with some also have in place having in-unit storage. Pardon. The project is about 65,000 square feet with a 2,000 square foot indoor amenity space. For some context, as you can see here, it's prominently located on the corner of Eastleigh and Glover. Now to go into a little bit of the design, as Carl had stated, it's a 6-story project on a 2-story concrete podium with natural daylit courtyard off the back in order to encourage outdoor play. There's an emphasized corner element with a raised roof design. Colored frames accentuate both the lobby entry with a blue colored frame and the live work units with a darker colored cementitious panel frame. The lighting that will be used to accent the corner is dark sky compliant and is meant to help with wayfinding for the building. The SEPTED measures that are put in place are natural surveillance, as well as raising the podium half a story above the ground level with tiered planting to create a pedestrian scale for the building, as well as protect the occupants within the building. Just to show the setback variances, as Carl had noted, we do sit quite close to Glover Road in order to engage the public to those live work units. And we are set back with some tiered planting along Eastleigh to help to screen and tier the facade along Eastleigh. Just a section showing the parkade level and the half level depression into the ground with the lobby at ground level. And then showing the first level of parking, which would be for residential. As you can see on the top left, there's the emphasized frame elements around the commercial live work units, with the live portion sitting directly above that on the second floor. And on the bottom right, you can see the vertical elements of the exit stair, which has been accented with windows and vertical corrugated metal panel. As well as on the far right corner, the entrance, which is easily visible from both Eastleigh and Glover. And again, just a couple more views of those perspectives. And you can see the well daylit amenity space on the second level podium. This image shows the lighting that's proposed for the lobby for nighttime, as well as the roof lighting to further accent the height of that corner and to draw attention to the feature of the architecture there. Just briefly going through the plans, you can see that there's residential parking on this lower level with the 2 EV stalls and garbage and recycling, and the storage and bike lockers are on the upper level with visitor parking as well. Going through to the second floor, you can see the interior amenity space, which directly is located adjacent to the outdoor with play structures and a barbecue area and a trellis structure as well. And then the typical unit plans and floor plans as you go up the building up to the 6th story, which are pretty standardized as you go up the building. Just showing the, again, frame elements of the entry and the raised portions accenting that corner. And going through the landscape design, just showing again the tiered planters, planting along Glover Road as well for the live work units, and the play structures and trellis feature in the amenity space on the podium. And that wraps up our presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Ms. Kenny, can you advise whether there was any correspondence that was received regarding development permit 03-20?
No, there was no correspondence received, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. And does any council have any questions or comments, or any of the other participants? Councillor Bahal, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And maybe to the applicant for the projects, just a few questions. And I'll just read 4 of them and then you can respond. So the first one, again, through the mayor, is for your garbage room, what did you consider as far as bin sizes? Would you be able to fit 2 large bins that you would normally see, say, in a commercial or in other stratas? I know in some other projects in the city, it could be a tight fit. So I just wanted to see how that was. The other question I have is, do all the bedrooms have fully openable windows so that you can get full circulation inside? What's the standard size of the bed? Is it a queen bed in each of the bedrooms? And then do you have any concerns with one elevator, considering the floors on this building, as far as, especially when people are doing move in and move out, or is that not a concern?
Thank you for your questions. Let's answer them in order. The first question, the garbage room has ample room for large bins as well as recycling bins, with the double doors providing access for receiving and getting rid of garbage. The second question, sorry,
Oh, that's okay. It was opening windows in all the bedrooms.
Yes, they all have operable windows, and the bedrooms all show queen beds at minimum.
Perfect.
The second bedrooms may show twin or double, but the master would be a queen.
Okay. And then just the elevator, if there was any concerns, just because it's new for me, as we're kind of approving these larger story buildings, if there's any questions, because I know some other projects have included 2 elevators. So
for a project of this size, it's not a concern. Usually if you hit above 80 or 90 units, you consider a second elevator.
perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great questions. Anybody else? Do not see any other hand raised, so thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll put forward that the committee of the whole rise and report. All those need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Stortaboom, Councillor James, all those in favor, that carries. Okay, regular meeting minutes from April 26, 2021, that the minutes of the regular meeting held on April 26, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Any corrections or errors? Councillor Stortaboom, are you just okay? Okay, I need a seconder then, please. Councillor Albrecht, all those in favor, any opposed? That carries. Okay, business arising from committee of the whole. So development permit number 03-20, 5724 and 5744 Glover Road. Motion that development permit application number 03-20 for a 6-story 70-unit mixed use development at 5724 and 5744 Glover Road, comprising 67 rental apartment units and 3 live work units be approved. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Stortaboom, Councillor Bahal, any further discussion on that? Councillor Stortaboom?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yeah, I just want to compliment staff and the developer and working together around a lot of the challenges associated with that particular construction. Also to advise, in keeping with my position as chair of the advisory design panel, that the development was very well received by the group. A number of recommendations were brought forward, and the developer demonstrated a genuine willingness to accommodate those concerns in working with staff. So quite honestly, I think this is going to be a beautiful building and a landmark location in our city, a gateway location to our downtown core. And I would encourage my colleagues to support this particular development. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. I especially like the lighting. It looks very, very nice and almost to match the legacy. So any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, any opposed, and that carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, we have one delegation up tonight, City of Langley Audit Report. We have a presentation from Graham Flack, our Deputy Director of Corporate Services for the City of Langley, and Christine Simpson, partner for BDO Canada LLP.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of council. Before you this afternoon are the draft financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2020. As part of the agenda package, there's a very detailed report on the financial statements, as well as a copy of the draft statements for 2020. I'd like to make a few brief comments regarding the statements, then answer any questions you have today. On page 145 of the agenda, the financial statements outline the city management's responsibility to prepare the consolidated financial statements and to ensure accounting procedures and systems and internal controls are in place to safeguard the city's assets. In addition to these internal controls, the city engaged the accounting firm of BDO Canada LLP to conduct the 2020 audit and to express an opinion as to whether the consolidated financial statements fairly present the financial position of the City of Langley as at December 31st, 2020, and the results of its operations for the year. With us this evening is Christine Simpson from BDO Canada, and she will speak to the audit report shortly. On page 149 is the statement of financial position. At December 31st, the city had net financial assets of $49 million. This is an increase of $3 million over 2019 and provides a positive indicator of the city's financial flexibility, its ability to finance ongoing operating activities, and its ability to meet any future current financial obligations. One particular line I'd like to draw to your attention is the temporary increase in accounts payable to other governments. To assist with potential cash flow requirements caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the province of BC allowed the city to hold on to the school property tax collected until January 2021, while it would typically be remitted to the province in July. This deferred payment created a large one-time increase of $5.8 million in payables to other governments, with an offsetting increase in cash and investments at year-end. Non-financial assets have also increased in 2020, made up primarily of $265 million of tangible capital assets. These assets, such as buildings, roads, and pipes, are a significant economic resource managed by the city and are a key component of the delivery of our services to our citizens. The final line of this statement is showing an accumulated surplus of $314 million. It's important to note that this is not a surplus that can be allocated to fund a particular expenditure in the future, but rather provides a picture of how the city is managing its current economic resources. It could also be interpreted as the net worth of the organization. If we raise revenues to acquire new tangible capital assets, a surplus will result. If the city decides not to invest in the maintenance and renewal of our assets over time, the accumulated surplus will decrease through the amortization charge. The change in accumulated surplus will gauge how we are maintaining our assets. And in 2020, we had a positive increase in accumulated surplus of $7.9 million. On page 150, the statement of operations shows all of the city's revenues and expenditures for the year. When comparing the 2020 actual results to the financial plan, it is important to note that the financial plan presented in the financial statements does not reflect any amendments adopted by City Council throughout the year. This difference is particularly noticeable in 2020, as City Council amended the financial plan in response to the COVID-19 pandemic in order to reduce the financial burden on city taxpayers. This amendment resulted in a $1.4 million savings to our taxpayers. As you can see in the council report, the COVID-19 pandemic had an impact throughout our financial operations for 2020. The area most significantly affected was the gaming proceeds, which were $5.7 million under budget due to the closure of the casino in March 2020. The city did receive $4.15 million from the province BC Safe Restart Fund which help offset the loss of gaming proceeds during the year. This revenue shows under government transfers on the statement of operations. The overall operating surplus, including water, sewer, and general funds, was $12,000. To this is added the increase in tangible capital assets and an increase in reserve balances that results in an overall annual surplus of $7.9 million. The annual surplus resulted primarily from lower departmental expenditures and larger transfers to reserves. General operating surplus was directed of $1 million to the Prosperity Fund and $5.3 million to the Capital Works Reserve, where it will be used for future capital investment. If approved by Council, a final 2020 financial plan bylaw amendment is required later in this meeting to allow for an over expenditure in the sewer and policing areas, as well as the larger reserve transfers noted earlier. Without going into too much detail, those were the highlights of the 2020 financial statements. And just want to ask at this point, is there any questions or points of clarification I could provide to Council?
Councillor Albrecht, go ahead.
Yeah, not so much a question, but a comment. I just want to really express my appreciation for staff and making sure that the finances of the city are well looked after. I know these reports aren't usually the most exciting on a council agenda, but they are the most important in terms of running our city effectively and efficiently. And without staff members like Mr. Flack and Mr. Light and your team, it would be extremely difficult and challenging. So I just want to thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Well,
All right. Well, seeing no more questions, definitely, as Councillor Albrecht alluded to, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank my entire corporate services team for the extra time and effort that they contributed this year. It's been a bit of a challenge, but it was a very successful year for us. And now I'd like to ask Ms. Simpson from BDO Canada to speak to her audit report.
Thank you very much. You can hear me okay? Yeah. So I'll just highlight quickly the purpose of the audit and the results. In your package, you'll see that there is a draft auditor's opinion. It will be signed subsequent to the council approval and some final cleaning up of documents that we need to do. We have to exchange some letters, so that will be completed once council approves the statements. I will remind you that our opinion is stating whether we believe the financial statements present fairly in all material respects, the financial position at December 31st, 2020, and the results of operations and changes in net financials and cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. We conduct our audit using Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. They require us to be independent, and we have provided a letter to the city confirming our independence. And we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate as a basis to provide for our opinion. We have not audited or reviewed the information in Schedule 5. It is supplementary information required by the province related to the new COVID restart grant. In performing our audit, we do rely on management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements and the associated working papers to perform the audit and determine the appropriate internal controls necessary to ensure that there are no material misstatements and to prevent fraud or error. In performing the audit, we use our judgment to determine the appropriate procedures to perform to get the reasonable assurance over the consolidated financial statements. We perform testing throughout and place additional testing in those areas where there are key estimates and judgments or complex accounting standards. We are required to perform using professional judgment and maintaining a sense of professional skepticism throughout the audit. And once we do complete the audit, we do discuss our results with management and those charged with governance, being the council members, to ensure that we have an open and transparent discussion of the audit findings and the process. And we've had that meeting with council. So we are in a position to sign the opinion. I do want to thank Mr. Light, Mr. Flack, and their team. It's been a pleasure working with them. Always very professional and timely, and a pleasure to work with. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody does have.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any further questions for Ms. Simpson? No, that's good. Okay, well, I just want to take the time to thank your team, Christine at BDO.
Thank you.
Our accounting team. I know it's been a really difficult and challenging year, and you made it work again. And I know you guys are a super team together. So on behalf of all of council and staff, thank you very much. And the citizens, we really,
Thank you very much.
So thank you. Okay, with that, we will go on to the 2020 consolidated financial statements and motion that City Council approve the 2020 consolidated financial statements. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Albrecht, Councillor Storteboom, all those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Thank you very much. Okay, on to community spotlights now. We have the Fraser Valley Regional Library current and future operations overview. And we have with us this afternoon, I keep saying tonight, I'm still so used to these meetings being at 7. I don't know why I can't get it out of my mind. It's been over a year. Scott Hargrove, the Chief Executive Officer of the Fraser Valley Regional Library. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I have a short presentation which I'd like to share through the last year or so of operations at FERL with a bit of a forecast for the upcoming year. So I will be brief as I possibly can be. So we'll start with just a very quick look at last year and then an operational update for where we are currently, followed by a forecast into the unknowable for the remainder of the year and even into 2022. So last year we closed to the public on March 17th. And of course, this wasn't due to a public health order, but rather the fact that we were not able to at that time source the necessary safety equipment to be able to operate the library safely with members of the public in attendance. We immediately began offering virtual programs and virtual services within about 8 days after our closure. We were able to restore access to the collection on June the 4th with our FERL Express service. And these pictures here are from that time. As you can see, there was a tremendous amount of pent-up demand. We had tens of thousands of items waiting in bags to go out to people that first week. We reopened to the public on August the 4th with limited hours, of course, that we've expanded once since that time. And we continue to offer service through this time and hopefully through the foreseeable future. We've had a few changes in our business, but some things thankfully have remained relatively the same. You're probably aware that we're probably most famous for our playground collection at FERL, and these are a series of non-traditional collections and services we started up several years ago, including things like the telescopes and the robots that you see there. But over the last year, we focused very much on collections that we could loan to people at home rather than have for in-library programming due to the difficulties in offering in-library programming currently. So last year we launched the Spectrums, which are a musical literacy tool that allow anybody with very limited musical talent, such as myself, to be able to compose simple songs with a computer-assisted synthesizer and device. It's quite clever, and certainly the kids of all ages really enjoy it. This year, 3 weeks ago, we launched something we've been working on for over a year. This is our bat packs that you probably saw a lot of press on in the last few weeks. These include the device there, which is an echolocator that plugs into your phone, either an Android or an Apple phone or tablet, and which will listen at the appropriate time of night for the ultrasonic sounds that bats make. And it can in fact not only tell you that there are bats in the area, it can tell you exactly which species they are based on the type of sound that the bats make. We're very proud to have done this in coordination with the Ministry of the Environment. We were working with their department for quite some time. And this was partially funded by the Ministry of Education, and more recently by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, as the Libraries branch has moved ministries recently. So we're very proud of that. I can say that we so far, with the 190 that we have, they are all out on loan, and we have 114 holds on them for when those ones come back. So it's been very successful, as all of our playground collections have been to date. We have seen our more traditional business change quite substantially, as I think virtually any business has. Our physical circulation has declined slightly. So that's our books, our DVDs, and other physical items. Not surprisingly, some people are more reluctant to come into a library. We simply aren't seeing the same numbers that we used to see in the past. Although that has, of course, been offset by the FURL Express service that we continue to offer for people who are immunocompromised or would just like the convenience of being able to pick up books without having to come in and browse for them in the library. On the plus side, we have definitely seen our streaming video and comparable services, so ebooks, e-audio books that people can borrow from the library, have significantly increased, anywhere from 50 to 100% what they were in previous years. And this has resulted in overall circulation, which is somewhat difficult to assess given the radical, very, very different blend we now have, but it's at least 90% and probably closer to 95% of our previous levels. So we've been able to maintain our business very effectively, which was a tremendous relief. Currently in Langley City specifically, we are averaging about 300 physical circulations per day. So again, this is books or DVDs that have been checked out. Our overall circulation, we don't have May yet, but overall circulation from January to April, 29,738 items. So again, physical books, physical DVDs, that sort of area. For our digital circulation, it's a little bit more challenging to manage because, of course, digital circulation doesn't have, we can't actually establish it based on a particular area because anybody can borrow any ebook from our collection within our region. They need a library card, of course, but I can't tell specifically how many people are borrowing who are Langley residents versus Township of Langley or Abbotsford, for example. But as you can see, this is a good indication of how incredibly high our numbers in ebooks and downloadable audiobooks have gone. In general, as I said, we've started to close the gap because even at the beginning of last year, we were seeing pretty substantially increased rates of digital circulation, even before we were forced to close down. But even at that point, as you can see, we're looking at substantial increases over the previous year. And in fact, in March, we had the highest ever digital circulation we have ever had at FURL, over 106,000 items system-wide. So very, very popular, not surprisingly, given the current conditions that we're in. We also have had tremendous success with our virtual programs. These are things like our virtual story times, author meetings. We've done a virtual dance party, for example. That was one of the first ones we did. Last year, we primarily focused on pre-recorded programs. As I'm sure you know from your months of doing council meetings virtually, there are some tremendous challenges with interactive virtual meetings and virtual events. We have learned an awful lot since then, but in last year, we did only a few live Zoom programs, but we did 471 pre-recorded programs. Last I checked, I think we're looking at a little over 300,000 views of our various different virtual programs. Now, of course, each of those views is often a family, so it could be a lot more than one person, but we can only calculate it statistically speaking based on number of views. This year, we have so far offered 45 live Zoom programs and 186 pre-recorded programs. So we are absolutely continuing to offer a tremendous number of these programs. As you'll hear later on, we fully expect to be able to offer these even post-pandemic, as both the virtual programs and the FURL Express have proven to be incredibly popular for reasons well outside of the pandemic. Many of our families, for example, have said that they might find it difficult to attend a story time held at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday in a library, but if that same story time is available to watch on a pre-recorded video for 3 days afterwards, they're able to watch it at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night when they're putting their kids to bed. So we've certainly heard lots of people say that, that those virtual programs and the FURL Express fit their lifestyle. We expect to continue those services for the foreseeable future, well past the pandemic. So moving forward, we're certainly planning our next hours extension. We're trying to determine in the constantly changing landscape of public health orders and the like, what those hours will be and when. Currently we're open, I think it's 10 to 6 Monday to Thursday at most locations, 10 to 5 on Friday, and 10 to 5 on Saturday. So there are some variations depending on the library. We are hoping to expand those hours in the very near future, preferably before summer, because of course summer is one of our busiest times. Last year we held a virtual summer reading club. This year we are doing the same, as well as a virtual reading late challenge. So those are two of our most popular events during the summer, and most especially throughout the entire year. They're very well attended and highly popular with our customers. So we'll be able to do both of those this year rather than just the summer reading club in a virtual format. As I said, we're certainly expecting to continue with FERL Express and virtual programming for the foreseeable future, but we do hope to return to in-library programming, or at the very least outdoor programming later on this year. All of that will depend on where the public health orders go and what is safe to do for obvious reasons. But programming is an area that all libraries have seen substantial increases in over the last 10 years. In general, our attendance has increased 5 to 10% every year, year after year after year. So there are obviously things like story times, but also in this day and age, we're doing lots of programming connected to our playground with robot races and ukulele clubs and the like. Unfortunately, all of these things are not accessible in COVID times due to the safety restrictions in place. So that is where we are currently. I'm of course been sending regular updates to city staff, and I believe most of those have gotten to council through our board representative and board chair, Councillor Martin. But of course, I'm happy to answer any specific questions should there be any. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I have a quick question about, are you looking at purchasing more multi-language materials?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We definitely are. We always tailor, literally month by month, we tailor our purchases to where the demand is. So if we see an increase, for example, in multilingual in a certain area, then we will absolutely expand our purchasing to meet that demand. So I believe the most recent one we had, of course, when the Syrian refugees arrived, that was one of the first times that we expanded our purchasing in Arabic collections quite substantially. So we are doing that at any time we see an increase in demand for a particular area, we definitely add to our multilingual collections.
Great. So if somebody did want something in a language, they could just contact you to see if you could provide it to them. I've had several inquiries about Spanish books and such, so.
Of course,
yeah.
Please forward them through to us.
Okay.
Yes, we follow our suggestions purchase very closely.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I have Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Albrecht, and then Councillor Bahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Hargrove, for your report. Please accept my compliments during this challenging time. You and your team have really demonstrated the ability to dynamically adapt and make yourself available for the community. And I'm really impressed by the work that you've done and the numbers that you're presenting today. If I may, I would ask what I think maybe a lot of our residents are wondering about, and that is around sanitizing products that come and go. And, you know, the measure of safety, the measure of risk that library patrons might be exposed to. Would you be so kind as to elaborate to give our residents some assurance that, you know, their public safety is certainly a top priority?
Thank you, Councillor Sturdivant. Absolutely, through the Madam Mayor. Yes, absolutely. So the BC CDC, we follow, of course, the BC Center for Disease Control, WorkSafe BC, and the Ministry of Health for all of our guidance in those areas. All have released some variation of information to guide the operators of various facilities, including libraries and other cultural facilities. The BC CDC and the Global CDC have both stated that the risk of contracting COVID-19 from a library book or other material is extremely low, is I believe the word that they use. They have suggested, as have we on our website, that if anyone is particularly concerned, if they are, for example, immunocompromised, they can absolutely arrange to have the materials delivered in a bag and they can quarantine them themselves for 3 days. We did quarantine for some time, a few months after this started, until we received guidance from the BC CDC that that wasn't necessary. And of course, it was creating significant backlogs and challenges from an operating perspective. But as I said, we've understood from the BC CDC that the risk of those transmissions are extremely low. In fact, last I checked, I don't believe that there were any recorded transmissions through a physical surface such as a library book or something similar. So the risk is extremely low.
Thank you for your kind words of assurance, and again for your report. Please accept my compliments for you and your team. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sturdivant. Very much appreciated. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Councillor Albrecht, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Thank you, CEO Hargrove. I really appreciate the update and the report and actually the good news. I at least that's the way I see it, as a real positive. Libraries are a essential part of our community and probably all communities. And I think, as Councillor Stordevin has said, your ability to pivot and adapt and embrace innovation is really been a real reward for all our residents and all your users. And I think it's a real testament to both you and your team in that regard, for the increase of use and the interest that the community is having in using the library resources the way they have. So I don't really have any questions. I think you're doing an outstanding job. And I just wanted to make sure that I recognize both yourself and your team for the great work that they're doing to serve our residents. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Councilor Roberts. Greatly appreciated. I have an amazing team around me and an absolutely incredible board. And I would say as well that Councilor Martin has been an absolutely phenomenal chair, continues to support us greatly. So thank you, Councilor Martin.
Great, thank you. Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the mayor to you, Mr. Hargrove. I think it's already been said, I think library services were a lifeline during this pandemic. So thank you for being able to be so agile. I guess I remember you were working on that strategic plan, and maybe my mind is all shot because of COVID times, but I feel like that just happened. Are you going to be looking at that, and like, how do you plan on incorporating some of the stuff you've learned during COVID that you mentioned, such as the online story times, the FVRL Express? Like, how's that going to factor into your long-term plans now, or what's the path for that?
Thank you, Councilor Chair. Yes, we are actually quite proud of how our strategic plan worked out. So we have about 2.5 years left to run in the strategic plan. It's a 6-year plan. And believe it or not, when we were reporting this year on all of the different changes that we had to make to continue operating during this pandemic, virtually everything fit into various components of our existing strategic plan, which was quite a pleasant surprise for us. And we expect that most of the things that we will want to continue doing after this will happily fit into our existing strategic plan. The board will be meeting to review the strategic plan as soon as it is safe to do so, and have our board retreat, which is an annual event. The strategic plan will be reviewed as a midlife review. And then, of course, a new strategic plan will be established about 2.5 years from now. And certainly, we've learned a lot from the last year. Thank you.
Cool. And just sort of to follow up, and if you don't have the answer right now, that's fine. You can feel free to maybe coordinate with Councillor Martin. But as far as if you're looking out, is there any longer term capital needs or any systemic challenges within our library system that we need to be looking for, like in the next 10 years or 15 years?
Certainly. I think one of the, it might be one of those questions I come back to at a later time. We are certainly evaluating a number of those concerns because there have been many costs that have come out of COVID-19 that we didn't expect, certainly. I think that's safe to say. But we have been able to accommodate all of them within our existing budget to date, and are certainly planning. We do a 5-year long-term capital plan at FERL, and it's updated every year. And certainly that we're in fact meeting with all the directors of finance on Wednesday for the first step in that review process, as we do every year. So I'll have more answers for you down the road, I'm sure.
Awesome, and I'm sure Councillor Martin will send those to us to review. No doubt about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, Scott, thank you very much for making your presentation today. And I just want to say, and it's sort of been reiterated today, that you're more than a pleasure to work with you and your team. And you said it, Scott, we have a wonderful team at the Fraser Valley Regional Library, and the programs that have been brought into place since COVID are absolutely fantastic. The virtual story times, as I've said to you before, I save them all and read them to show them to my grandchildren, and it's something that I wouldn't even have thought about doing before. So I know they're very, very popular programs. it's just absolutely wonderful what your team has done. And I guess, you know, maybe I shouldn't even put this out there, but in answer to Councillor Bacall's question about long-term needs, we have sort of discussed that with the population growth, our administration center is getting to a point where it's getting pretty crowded. So, you know, that's something in the long term that that we're going to have to look at. And, you know, it can be figured out over the years with the different municipalities. But we have to keep in mind, you know, when our population grows, our usage grows, and, you know, you need more staff and you need more room and everything like that. So that's something that we should all be keeping in mind. But once again, Scott, thanks very much. And I'll say it again, it's more than a pleasure working with you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. It is absolutely a pleasure working with our board and with, I should also say, City of Langley staff. Mr. Chung and staff are amazing to work with, and we're really grateful for your membership at FPRL and your support. It's very appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Hargrove? I don't see any. Well, thank you very much for coming and giving your presentation tonight. Super important. Education is key, right? And you guys are helping out. So that's wonderful. And I'm kind of curious about the bat, like who's finding the most bats and in what area? Because I'm going to kind of avoid it. Just saying.
No doubt. Well, we're certainly finding many of them through the Fraser Valley, and the farmers are happy because they really keep the pests down. So
yes, I know our neighbors have a little Batman bat house out, so they keep, I try to keep an eye on it. But well, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much. You too.
Okay, so on to Mayor's report. Upcoming meetings, regular council meeting after this. The next one is May 31st, 2021. And the next one following that, the regular council meeting is June 14th, 2021. I can't believe we're already mentioning June. Library happenings with Councillor Martin is up next.
Thank you very much. I just had to restart my agenda here, so I'm just going to pull it up.
No worries.
Okay, so the Fraser Valley Regional Library Playground's new backpacks, complete with an echo-meter bat detector device, provide tools and information to develop an understanding, appreciation, and support for bats through citizen science opportunities. Until May 14th, customers can enter to win their very own detector. And as I'm sure most of you read in the paper last week, the bats have just come out of hibernation. So it's a great time to get your backpack. And the next slide. Do you miss traveling? Nah, none of us miss traveling, right? These titles are perfect for imagining yourself in a different place or time. You can enjoy the vivid setting and travel hassle-free in your imagination. The next slide, award-winning author Kenneth Opel will discuss his Silver Wing trilogy, Bat Facts, Sound Technology, Real and Imagined, Natural History, Folklore, Mythology, and Exotic Locations from around the world. And the next slide is, are you ready to move up from goosebumps to the next level of fear? We'll be creating our own Scareville scale of horror. Help us rate books, movies, and graphic novels from mild to maximum terror. And come up with a chariot attachment that allows your Sphero to carry around quarters and enter our official Sphero quarter carrying challenge. Place a hold on a Sphero robot and pick it up at your local library, and prepare your design beforehand, then join us on Zoom to show off your creation. And you can come and get excited about the upcoming lunar eclipse. Longtime astronomer Bill Burney will share his expertise with us and answer any astronomy questions you might have. And how good are your guessing skills? Watch library staff poorly we mean amazingly, draw a variety of things and see who can guess the most for ages 12 to 17. And you can join sleep consultant Joanne Holmes to learn about healthy baby and toddler sleep, how to lengthen naps, how to deal with bedtime struggles, and more. There will be time to discuss your own sleep questions. And you can join Fraser Valley Regional staff birding enthusiasts and special guest owl wildlife interpreter to discover more about these awesome creatures. And you can join us to watch a short documentary together and stick around as well as we all discuss the film. We'll be streaming Algo, Polly, and Turcotte, a documentary about Tur peregrine falcons who live under the Turcotte interchange in St. Henry, Montreal. And in my report, I would just like to say and make everybody aware on council that at our last board meeting, we passed a new library naming policy. This policy is intended to provide guidance and support to municipalities when considering name changes for an existing library or naming a new library. Under the Library Act, the library board has the ultimate decision on a library name, but we wanted to preserve the voice of the municipality to ensure that libraries are named in a manner appropriate to the community. So anybody out there that's considering a name change, they have to keep this in mind. It wasn't until recently that we discovered the board did have the ultimate decision-making on this. So we brought in this policy. And that's my report for today. Thank you.
Great, thanks. They need to have an adult sleep workshop. I like napping. It's not just for kids, right? Councillor James, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say to Councillor Martin that having been the alternate for several years, Councillor Pahal is currently, but and having been able to attend these workshops, I just really want to thank you, Councillor Martin, for your passion about this. There's no question in my mind why you continue to keep getting reelected as chair of the Fraser Valley Regional Library. You do an exceptional job. Your reports are always super fulsome and informative. And I just, really appreciate all the time and energy that you put into this on behalf of us. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll just make one correction. Councillor Wallace is the alternate for the library board. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we now have an engineering update. Mr. Bonhoeffer, Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment.
Okay, thank you very much. I will share my screen. And yes, this is the report for the month of May, Engineering, Parks and Environment. This first shot is a picture of the final paving on 203 Street between 56th Avenue and Fraser Highway. You'll recall that project was completed late last year and that just wasn't in time to get the final lift of asphalt done. And you will notice, you'll see these little orange dots in the pavement in this area here, and that it's all along the curb line. It shows where our fiber optic line is. We have been having issues with not being able to identify the location and cutting into that cable. So we're hoping that this will help assist in preventing that from happening. But we've also deepened the lines as well. This is a shot of the final paving on the Langley bypass, similar kind of issue with the completion of the project. It was during the fisheries window, so it was a little bit earlier in the year, but we wanted to allow a little bit of time to allow some of the settlement to occur and then pave it in the new year. So this is finishing that project off above Logan Creek. This is a before and after shot of pressure washing of the benches in Sendell Gardens. That was a request I think that council actually made last meeting. And so this is just a few of the shots. Here's, it's actually quite dramatic. We have put in place a proper maintenance. I'm not sure why this hadn't been done over the few years, but clearly it needs to be done more regularly. So we have set that in motion to be done annually. This is a shot of the maintenance along the Bryden Lagoon Trail, adding granular material, just improving the pathway around the lagoon. These are some trail and drainage improvements at City Park off Leash Park area. As you know, this was a recently improved project. Drainage was incorporated into the project, but clearly wasn't enough in the areas in the low points. So we did some improvements, and we will be monitoring that over the coming year. But it is a big improvement now. This is a shot showing the City Park seating of the refurbished area south of the pool area in the open space. There will be some picnic benches and I believe a table in these concrete pads located here, and there'll also be a tree planting there in the near future. It's a picture of some new fencing that's been installed at Condor Park along the parking lot. We've also installed new curb stops to prevent vehicles from getting too close to the fence. And one of the capital projects this year is to reinstall and refurbish all of the playground wood chips. So all of the playgrounds in the city have new wood chips installed. And this is a picture of the new railing that's been installed at Sendle Gardens in the lower garden area. This was we used the windfall trees. Remember a couple of months ago, I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, there was a tree that came down in City Park, and we took the branches. Parks crew came up with the idea to use them for the railing, and this is the end result. It's quite a nice scene there. It's a spot where a lot of pictures get taken for weddings and different events that people have. So it really adds to that attraction. This is a picture of the new signs that were installed on the wooden carvings around town. We did have some theft of the previous ones that were made of brass. And these signs are made out of just more aluminum backing, so it's a much less of a value for anybody wanting to steal them. And it also, I think it looks very good. And this is a shot of some recent kiosk wraps that's been installed. And we've had some new pictures that we approved some time ago. And just amazing what a difference it can make, I think, to the intersections. And it prevents people from, either not wanting to spray and tag them, or of course, it makes it a lot easier for us to clean it off as well. This is the intersection at 206th and Douglas. And then this one is just on Fraser Highway east of 206th Street. It also is advertising for our city parks. This is a shot of cleaning of the bike lanes at the stanchions along the bike lanes. And thank you. That is my report.
Great. Well, thank you and your staff very much. Looking good as always. Great job by everyone. Thank you. Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to Mr. Baumhoff. 2 compliments. The first one is the cleaning of the bike lanes. I've actually had a friend of mine comment that was good that the city is doing that, and we're one of the few outside of sort of the Burrard Peninsula that really take that seriously. So thank you so much. That was noted, and they're like, oh wow, they're clean. I'm like, yeah, they're clean and they're safe. So that's awesome. And then also just seeing us reuse the wood from the damaged trees, whether it's Hunter Park or trees that fall, and seeing them incorporated in signs and benches and railings. That's really good. It shows that we're reusing material. I think it helps because we can develop those skills within our own staff to be able to work with wood, which is really important. And I think it also helps give our community some real connection to local, because you don't get as local as the trees that were grown here. So I hope we continue to do that because I think it's really impressive. Two questions though. The wood chips, I know I've had some residents ask if they cause slivers. Are these the special engineered ones that are sliver free?
That's correct, yes.
Cool.
Engineered, yes.
And then the final question is, when will you get back the evidence on the effectiveness on if these aluminum backed plaques are effective? And if you do get that back, would you consider replacing the plaques that are missing at Portage Park on the Salmon, the 204th Street overpass, and then there's the plaque that's missing by the duck pond near the senior center as well?
I have talked to our operations staff who look after the plaque on the bridge, and we are looking at replacing that one. And I will also look at the other locations. And for sure, I think we're pretty much decided that these signs are adequate and they cover what we need, and they're very much at a reduced cost. So there's no problem in replacing those ones. So I will make sure those get done.
Thank you, Mr. Baumhoff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Storteboom and then Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Baumhoff, for your report. Always excited to know what's going on in the city with regard to your department. I think you guys are doing a really, really great job. It's springtime, everything's budding and blooming and blossoming, and you're really presenting the city as best it looks at this time. As I've said previously, a lot of people are doing their walks, and I've been doing some walking too. My compliments to you and the team for keeping the trails and the laneways and the byways free of litter. As I've advised, there are some locations that might need a little extra attention because, well, some people are messy, and in just a day, it can go from being spotless to suddenly having all kinds of debris left behind. So thank you for your diligence, for you and your team, and keeping our city looking good. Really like the benches and what you've done with them there. The natural wood look is just terrific. I love that. And I want to say too that the wraps around the utility boxes are especially worthwhile. I think though, if it's not too much trouble, maybe you could advise those who may be watching why not all of these utility boxes are wrapped, because the city is doing a great job of beautifying those boxes, but it makes some of the others that are still outstanding look really ugly, and it'd be nice if they could be done too. So I'll turn off my mic, but thank you again for you and your team and the hard work that you do. You're doing a great job of making the city look good. I'll just wait and hear your response with regard to those wraps. Thank you.
For sure, thank you. Yes, the city is putting wraps on the boxes that it controls and the kiosks that it controls on the road rights of ways. So those are basically the traffic signal control boxes. The others are BC Hydro and TELUS kiosks, and those both those firms do not have a wrap program, so that it's left up to their cleaning crew to come and get to them, and it does seem to take some time to get them to a certain any location in the city. So definitely, if there's any contacts in Hydro or TELUS that you're aware of that we should reach out to, or that if you know them by contacts, then by all means, we'd love to see them have a similar kind of a program, and we could give them the pictures, and it's not a huge expense really for what it does for the image, for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Baumhoff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Rick, for attending to the benches in Sendell Gardens. They look absolutely fantastic. What a difference. It's just amazing. Just fantastic. The one question I have, and again, it's sort of for maintenance, the statues that we have in the city. I think the one at City Hall, it sort of looks a little rough on the top. Is there anything we can do to sort of make it look like it was in the beginning?
Yes, I actually have reached out to a firm out in Hope, and they refurbished one of their wooden carvings. As you know, the artist was from Hope, and so it's with people that were linked with Mr. Ryan, so that he is actually going to give me a quote to do some repairs and refurbishing of all of the statues. I have not received that yet, so we will be receiving that soon.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. So thank you very much for your report, Mr. Baumhoff. Councillor Storteboom, did you want to add you had something about the DLBA, I believe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be happy to insert that at this time. In February 2021, all business improvement associations across BC were invited to submit 3 programs or initiatives for consideration at the Business Improvement Areas of BC and International Downtown Association's Pacific Northwest Regional Conference 2021. This year's theme was resiliency and recovery in response to these very challenging and dynamic circumstances for businesses here. During the conference, the Best in the West Awards were held May 3rd and 4th. There were 36 submissions that were received and 14 programs, initiatives were recognized. The tiers in each category are awards of excellence, awards of merit, or no specific recognition. I'm happy to report that our city's Downtown Langley Business Association submitted 3 initiatives and was delighted to receive the following: an award of excellence in the category of marketing for their social media strategy, an award of merit in the category of programming and partnerships for their mural walk program, and another award of merit for the category of programming and partnerships for their Downtown Dollar program. The judging panel consisted of individual business association members from across Canada. So to be recognized by your peers for 3 awards out of 3 submissions with only 14 awards in total given is a notable achievement. I am proud our Downtown Langley Business Association, and I invite everyone to congratulate them for these most recent awards, as well as their ongoing, innovative, and exceptional marketing programs in Langley City. Congratulations to our Downtown Langley Business Association.
Great. Yay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, moving on to bylaw 3.1. Pardon me?
I did have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, Gail, it blended in with the trees. I apologize. Go ahead.
No problem. Well, I'd like to offer my congratulations to the Downtown Business Improvement Association. You know, I was around when the BIA first started, and it wasn't easy to get off the ground, not so much from the merchants, but from council. And, you know, early on, City Council, when it was finally passed, stood behind the BIA and supported them. And I know other BIAs around the province wondered why or how our BIA could do what they did. And it's because of the support City Council got. But, you know, recently, I think, besides these 3 awards, there's other awards that have been won. And I'm really proud that we've had this BIA in our city for several years now, and it's going gangbusters. And, you know, the people, I believe, the Facebook posts and what have you, it's just absolutely wonderful. So my full congratulations to the BIA board and the staff at the BIA. You do a great job, and we hope that you're around for a long, long time. I think you have a 10-year tenure right now, which is fantastic. And I just think it's wonderful that we're doing so well. So congratulations again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands, so I'm gonna move on again. Okay, bylaws. On to A, bylaw 3166, tax rate bylaw. Final reading of a bylaw to levy property value taxes for municipal purposes for the year 2021. That the bylaw cited as 2021 tax rates bylaw 2021, number 3166, to be read a final time. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Stordeboom, Councillor Pahal, any discussion? I don't see any. So all those in favor, any opposed? That carries. Bylaw 3162, tax penalty addition bylaw, final reading of a bylaw to amend the tax penalty addition bylaw. Motion is that the bylaw cited as tax penalty addition bylaw 1983, number 1267, amendment number 4, bylaw number 3162 be read a final time. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Pahal, Councillor Albrecht, any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor, any opposed? That carries. On to number C, bylaw 3163, official community plan amendment, first and second reading of a bylaw to amend the official community plan bylaw in order to incorporate provisions for high density mixed use development at the property address 20059 Fraser Highway, as proposed in the draft new OCP, ahead of its targeted adoption in 2021. And I believe Mr. Johansson, do you wish to speak to the application?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I can provide an overview of the OCP amendment application and the rezoning and the DP. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment and DP application involves a 6-story residential building with 98 dwelling units and a small amount of commercial space, about 390 square meters. It represents the first redevelopment to occur in the proposed Fraser Industrial District in a new draft OCP. And this is that stretch of land between 200 Street and 201A Street, and which currently hosts a lot of service, commercial and industrial uses, but is just located south of the future SkyTrain Guideway and just about a 5 to 10 minute walk west of the 203 Street SkyTrain station. This site involves, typically we're used to geotechnically challenging sites. This one is geometrically challenging as well due to its parallelogram shape. So that's had an influence on the design and the parking approach. So the OCP amendment is necessary at this point as the property is located in an area that's currently designated service commercial in the OCP, but the proposal is consistent with the new proposed OCP in terms of providing transit supportive density about over 3 floor area ratio, or FAR. And this density is likely the highest in the city for a 6-story building. And it's well suited because it's directly adjacent to the present Fraser Highway transit corridor. And like I said, within a 5 to 10 minute walk of the 203 Street SkyTrain station. This application also aligns with what staff are contemplating for a new zone in the new zoning bylaw that would be brought forward to implement the new OCP. And the parking provisions being proposed in this application are also consistent with what we've brought forward with previous applications in core areas. And again, given the great transit service and noting that parking demand is dropping in Metro Vancouver and in City of Langley, the application is proposing a reduced parking rate for 1-bedroom dwellings, also for the small scale commercial visitor parking. And it's also introducing the concept of shared residential visitor and commercial parking. And this is something that's new to Langley, but it's something that is used in other cities that have SkyTrain and high rates of transit use. And what it does is it provides a very efficient way of using parkades by allowing commercial parking spaces to be used by commercial uses during the day when stores are open, and then for residential visitors at night when those stores are closed and no longer required for commercial use. And also the small car parking size and rates are again consistent with municipalities with SkyTrain. And the high density of the building is also made possible by a zero lot line design, which anticipates new development to the east, but made sure that there's a lot of outdoor amenity spaces on the rooftop and on the second level. The application received the support of the advisory design panel, and the applicant did very well to respond to the panel's advice to update and simplify their originally proposed building facade. And now they've come forward with a unique, eye-pleasing landmark building for this high-profile site. And from staff perspective, we feel it's going to align well with the proposed development permit guidelines in our new OCP. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this overview.
Thank you, Mr. Johansson. Is there any questions? Okay, so I'll put forward the motion first. How about we do that? And then you can ask the question after, Councillor Sturdivant. Okay. That the bylaws cited as City of Langley Official Community Plan Bylaw 2005, number 2600, amendment number 13, 2021, number 3163 be read a first and second time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Albrecht. Councillor Sturdivant, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Johansson, for introducing this development permit application. As chair at the advisory design panel, I'd like our council to know that this development was very well received by our group, and a lot of innovative designs were brought forward. Plus, there were some significant recommendations on the form and the character and the look of the building that were brought back to the developer. And quite honestly, I'm very much impressed by how the developer has responded and worked with our staff to deliver a building that is actually quite different in its appearance from what it was originally. The details, of course, are in your package, but the design advisory panel accepted the application and unanimously supported it for council, as I do ask my council to support this resolution as well. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Johansson, for your report.
Thank you. Any other comments before we call the vote? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Okay, OCP amendment bylaw number 3163, public consultation and adoption requirements. Mr. Johansson, did you want to speak to this one as well, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very briefly, Mayor and Council, this is a recommendation to refer this OCP amendment application to the 4 agencies listed in the report. Again, our standard procedure for an application that's seeking to amend the current OCP. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'll read the motion that council directs staff to send copies of the official community plan amendment bylaw number 3163 20059 Fraser Highway to the following organizations and authorities for consultation prior to holding a public meeting on June 14, 2021 in consideration of the requirements set out in section 475 of the Local Government Act, Metro Vancouver, TransLink, Kwantlen First Nation, School District number 35, and 2, consider official community plan amendment bylaw number 3163 in conjunction with the 2021 to 2025 financial plan bylaw number 3151 and the regional liquid and solid waste management plans in accordance with section 4773 of the Local Government Act. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Albrecht, any discussion on that? Seeing no hands, all those in favor, and that carries. On to D, bylaw 3164, zoning bylaw amendment and development permit number 02-21, first and second reading of a bylaw to accommodate a 6-story 98 apartment unit and 397 meters squared commercial mixed-use development at 20059 Fraser Highway. Mr. Johansson, I believe you wish to speak to this bylaw as well. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon once again, Mayor and Council. I did provide the most detailed description in my earlier comments on the OCP amendment bylaw, but this zoning bylaw amendment is to bring forward an application to create a new comprehensive development zone or CD zone to accommodate this development in advance of the new official community plan and zoning bylaw. And it's modeled after what we're contemplating in a new OCP in terms of the higher densities and the more urban type of development that we would anticipate to happen around the SkyTrain stations and what we call our core areas. And the proposed parking variances for residential parking, visitor, commercial, and small car spaces. Again, those are all consistent with what we're contemplating in our new zoning bylaw based on the recommendations of our consultant and what we're seeing in other municipalities, and also consistent with what we have seen with previous applications before council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you, Mr. Johansson. So the motion is that the bylaw cited as zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment number 173, 2021, number 3164, be read a first and second time. Moving to seconder, Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Paul. Any discussion on that? Councillor Paul, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick clarity question in the drawings. There's an area that's marked garbage/loading. Is that like the loading zone as well for like if you were a courier or you were moving in?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Paul. On the drawings, yes, there is that loading area where the applicant or the architect has identified as shared. I mean, our assumption from a staff perspective is that that's to be a dedicated loading zone for the project. There is a set of doors just I guess to the northwest of the lane that would be for the garbage access as well. But that would require loading off of the lane. If that loading space is unoccupied at the time, it does provide the option for the garbage to be removed through that loading zone. And there's also another garbage enclosure on the northeast side of the building that's accessible from the lane. So they've made they're trying to make the most use of the funny shapes that you get on this the parallelogram, as we call it.
Cool.
It's clarity for you.
Yeah, so in the Coles notes is that is a loading zone for deliveries and moving, and you can empty the garbage from both of the garbage from the lane for both of the garbage.
That's correct.
Areas. Awesome.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sturtevant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as council knows, I fully support this application, and I really appreciate the opportunity to work with this particular builder. Just on the question of the shared parking associated with commercial residential, I actually am familiar with another building that has worked with residents and commercial to provide this shared parking. And from my experience with that building, I would like to encourage the developer, when registering the property with the Land Titles Office, to be very specific about those uses and the times that are provided for the shared parking. It seems to me that parking is becoming more and more of an issue in our downtown core. And I expect that with the onset of a SkyTrain station, people coming to our community will probably be filling up a lot of parking spots here as well. And so I would suggest that when registering, be very, very clear about the parking to be sure to avoid frustration between tenants and commercial properties moving forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again, Mr. Johansson.
Great. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? On to E, bylaw 3170, 2020 to 2024 financial plan amendment for second and third reading of a bylaw to amend the 2020-2024 financial plan bylaw. And I believe our Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Light, would like to speak to this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we had earlier in our agenda package a discussion from the auditor. So this is just bringing our financial statements, our financial plan or budget in line with our financial statements. We had a small over expenditure in our police and sewer, and more money being transferred to our reserves. As well, we took the opportunity to recognize a number of grants that we received, particularly from ICDC, relating to some traffic improvements in our capital plan, and those were included in this bylaw amendment. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the motion is that bylaw cited as the financial plan 2020 to 2024, bylaw 2020 number 3120, amendment number 3, bylaw 3170, be read a first, second, and third time. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Albrecht. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor, any opposed, that carries. Okay, on to administrative reports. We have the award of tender T 2021-002, 2021 road rehabilitation, various locations. That council, so motion 1, that council award the tender T 2021-002, 2021 road rehabilitation, various locations to Lafarge Canada Incorporated based on the tendered amount of $837 or $837,937, excluding GST. That's weird that they're both 37s. 2, that council authorized the Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment and the corporate officer to execute the contract document for the T 2021-002, 2021 road rehabilitation, various locations to Lafarge Canada Incorporated. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Albrecht, any discussion on that? Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Okay, B, discussion paper, medical emergency service alarm message calls. Motion is that council receive the discussion paper, medical emergency service alarm message calls report dated May 4, 2021 for information. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Albrecht, any discussion? Councillor Sturdivant.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think that this is something that we need to discuss with great frequency to be sure that we stress the point that we're making, that the provincial government should compensate us for the medical emergency call-outs that our city is providing through our Langley Fire Rescue Service. I think it's really important that we continue to press into the province, and so this sort of activity will hopefully keep bringing the province back to a place where they recognize their responsibility under healthcare. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Speed reader board traffic data collection and analysis. The motion is that council receive the speed reader board traffic data collection and analysis report dated May 10th, 2021 for information. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Bahal, any discussion? Councillor Bahal, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And maybe this is to staff or just a comment. But I guess it's affirming to see and maybe disappointing that speed is such a large problem on 200th and 208th. And I'm glad we now have that data. And also thanks staff for working with the RCMP. I think you agreed to items 1 and 2 to see if there's anything they could do in the short term. For the other suggestion, I think, which was to work with the province on sort of innovative approaches that are not available today. Do you think that would be something to bring up with our MLA, or what approach do you think would be the best to sort of get some action on that from the council to our provincial leaders?
Yes, thank you. it really is, it's a starting point for discussion that we presented this information. It was a request that council had made, which I understood to be possibly used for this kind of discussion with the province to see if there's any opportunities for ways to improve the way that we can monitor and restrict the kind of speeds that are on the streets. I presume we are not the only ones. This is something that's happening all over the province, and it's a frustration for many councils, I'm sure, and residents. So it's something that you know, are there other opportunities for, you know, more efficient use of RCMP? You know, it can even go to alternative, you know, whatever alternative means that you can imagine, you know, for, you know, similar to intersections that are done at key intersections where there's a lot of accidents, high accident locations. They've installed cameras and they also monitor speed. So it's really the sky is the limit as far as what you would like to do with this information and how you could see possibly moving it up to a higher level. Because, and like I say, it's more of a, we're restricted. We can't install that kind of equipment on our streets. It's a provincial initiative. So is this something that council and other municipalities would be interested in working with the province to you know, work towards a similar kind of a system, but at the municipal level, local level, as opposed to just provincial control?
Thank you.
Mr. Chung?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To supplement what Mr. Baumhoff said, I think there are a couple of things that we can also do. One is through Mr. Baumhoff's task group with the traffic group that he meets with the RCMP and other groups, and maybe work with them and the ICBC to lobby the Minister of Public Safety through that task group and through council to lobby for such a photo radar at municipal streets. And the other thing is that we have regular meetings with our MLA, Andrew Mercer. And I think this will be a good topics for discussion to discuss with him, and maybe he could, on our behalf, lobby the ministry or the province to consider having this type of measure to be placed on municipal road as opposed to provincial roads. Thank you.
And if I just quickly can follow up to what Mr. Chung said. So from the staff perspective, is there anything council needs to do, or is it just something that you can bring up since you have this information? Obviously, as a council, if we choose, we could bring this up to Mr. Mercier.
Through the mayor to Councillor Hall, yes, we can certainly bring this information forward to Mr. Mercier. And also, like I said, concurrently, we can ask the task group to consider that and work with the RCMP and ICBC, maybe bring a recommendation back to council to the province for consideration.
Thank you. And just finally, do you need any motion to enable that from council, or is it just something as part of your normal work plan?
Through the mayor to council, we can initiate that at the staff level. And if there's a requirement or need to get a resolution from council, then we'll bring it forward to council for adoption or approval.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sturtevant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your report, Mr. Baumhoff, and your comments, Mr. Chung. Yeah, it seems to me that our prime duty is to protect the public. Public safety is job one, and I get a lot of people commenting about speeding and how unsafe it is, especially in the neighborhoods and especially when there's children out at play. I know that in recent years, City Council has introduced traffic calming devices, and I believe that they are effective in reducing the speeds on certain streets. I got a lot of complaints from people about those traffic calming devices. They asked, why did you install those? And I said, because it slows people down. And that was the end of the conversation, because quite honestly, I think they're effective and people are frustrated by these, but they have to come to a place where they understand that public safety is job one. So I look forward to pursuing this matter with the province, maybe even accepting the fact that some streets should have their speed limit increased, but then proper precautions made to make these changes in speed limits understandable and acceptable for our residents. So thank you for the good work on this file. And I'll look forward to hearing more about it moving forward, and hopefully maybe even discussing it with our new MLA. Thank you again for your report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion or questions? See none, all those in favor? And that carries. All right, on to new and unfinished business. Motions and notices of motions. Our first one up is a motion to support in solidarity for Indian farmers. And I believe Councillor Wallace, I will put it over to you.
Thank you. And through the mayor, you have the background in your agenda, so I will go right to the whereas. Whereas Indian farmers are protesting against changes made to the agricultural laws by the Indian government. And whereas the protesting farmers who have long struggled with poverty and suicide fear the new laws will severely impact their livelihood negatively, leave them at the mercy of corporations by taking away the safety net of guaranteed prices for certain crops and a greater risk of losing their lands to corporate control or otherwise. And whereas 60% of the population of India still depends on agriculture for survival, and whereas Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch are asking the Indian government to immediately stop its crackdown on protesters amid ongoing nationwide demonstrations against this legislation. And whereas lending our voice to support Indian farmers shows that we value the fact that local farmers around the world are indispensable to the social and economic fabric of countries. And whereas the Greater Vancouver, including the city of Langley, is the hub of multiculturalism, including Indians, the majority of whom are from Punjabi Sikhs, but mostly belong to the farming families from Punjab. And whereas the BC government, the major federal political parties and others across the country are speaking out against these legislative changes and the crackdown on protesters. Therefore, be it resolved that the city of Langley stands in solidarity with the Indian farmers and supports the rights of Indian farmers to speak out against these laws and in any repressive measures against Indian citizens and their right to expression and liberty.
Well, second.
Okay, I think Councillor Pahal seconded it first. But I see everybody's enthusiastic because I agree. Councillor Pahal, did you want to discuss?
I support the motion, and so I'll be voting in favor of it.
Okay, I just want to make sure you didn't have anything else to say. Councillor Albrecht, did you have any?
You know what? No more need be said. I thank Councillor Wallace for crafting the detailed motion, and I'll be supporting it as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Sturdivant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm going to start by saying that I appreciate Councillor Wallace's heart for people who are struggling. I've gone into a bit of a deep dive on this because it is extraordinary. And I do have a concern about, foreign affairs becoming a part of our procedure, as this might be a precedent for that. In my research, I found that the Indian Farm Bills are 3 acts made into law by the democratically elected Parliament of India. My research tells me that the intention of these laws is to organize the agricultural industry by regulating certain pricing while opening competition by reducing commissions, market fees, and associations that may damage the agricultural sector. However, some Indian provinces are resisting the change by refusing to implement these laws. While some Indian farm unions support the legislation, some do not. Also, a large number of farmers, as is identified here, have abandoned their farms to protest the new laws. Some of the controversy is around minimum pricing for products that some farmers don't accept as protection, but instead believe these measures will reduce their bargaining power. Also, there's a lot of misinformation being circulated around the issue throughout India and with expatriates around the world. Included in this argument are economic, religious, cultural, and even tribal factions struggling to have their voices heard in order to control the conversation. It's complicated. Now, there is an even active campaign to recruit Canadian politicians in Canada to choose sides in this growing conflict. After much correspondence, conversation, and research, I'm convinced that this is not a matter for Langley City Council. It's not in keeping with the business of Langley City. I've been advised that the resolution being presented has no real merit and that it is only a symbolic gesture. I agree. Passing this motion will demonstrate support for the Indian farmers, but in doing so, we will be making a symbolic judgment against the democratically elected government of India. Also, we would be denying Canada's aggressive posture with the World Trade Organization around free trade practices. It's complicated. This is a matter that appears as much to be about the legislation as it is about political power struggle between two strong, separate factions in a foreign country. There are accusations of corruption against all levels of government, the farmers, the media, and even the police. The business of Langley City has no real stake in the matter, and it's none of our business. We don't even have farmland inside our borders. In my opinion, it is inappropriate for Langley City Council to wade into this debate, and it would be greater for us to remain neutral. It would be better for us to remain neutral in this conflict. Otherwise, we are opening the door to debating other serious conflict situations around the world that have significant merit, including the rental evictions in Jerusalem that are happening right now, human rights abuses in China, genocide in Myanmar, and even the US presidential election results. Please excuse me for choosing not to support or denounce this foreign legislation. I don't prefer to use this platform to stray from the business of Langley City in order to choose sides in a complicated and sometimes volatile power struggle that is manifesting on the other side of the world. In my opinion, it's bad policy to even entertain the motion. However, now that the motion's been brought forward for a vote, we're being forced to choose sides. However, I will prefer to be recorded as abstaining from the vote and will demonstrate my absence from the vote by turning off my video feed when the vote is being taken. I hope that's acceptable. Thank you again.
Ms. Kenny, did you want to clarify that for Councillor Storterboom?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. There is no abstention under the Local Government Act.
Unless I sign out?
Otherwise, you would have to leave the meeting and you'd be recorded as not being present when the vote was taken. But if you just stay and say nothing, then you'd be deemed to be voting in favor.
So I have to leave the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. And then I hope you'll let me back in again.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, I am going to call the vote. All in favor, showing our solidarity with the farmers. Any opposed? And that carries. Wonderful. Thank you for bringing that forward, Councillor Wallace. Oh, there he is. I'll wait for Councillor Storterboom to come back on, if everybody is okay with that.
I'm back.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, there you are. Wonderful, thank you. All right, now motion number 2, Community Safety Officer Program. Whereas Langley City continues to face many social and safety issues, as do most communities in Metro Vancouver, therefore be resolved that Langley City staff explore the option of a Community Safety Officer Program as a support and outreach initiative that connects unhoused people to services and provides a swift, supportive, and effective response to some of our most challenging social issues. And further, that the city's bylaw enforcement department be redefined to engage with our vulnerable population and reduce community safety concerns and enhance relationships with local business owners and operators, providing education and prevention information while maintaining high visibility in the downtown area. I have a seconder to that, Councillor Pahal, for discussion. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I am definitely supportive of exploring this program and exploring the city's bylaw department. I'm going to propose what I think is a friendly amendment, but I think it's important insofar as the second one says like redefine, but I don't think we can redefine until we explore what that redefinition would look like. So I'll just put this forward and see if we get a seconder. It's further that Langley City staff explore redefining the city's bylaw enforcement department to engage with their vulnerable populations and reduce community safety concerns and enhance relationships with local government, business owners, and operators, providing education and prevention information while maintaining high visibility in the downtown core.
Oh, sorry, I'll accept that friendly amendment.
Okay.
If staff is good. Okay. Any further discussion? What I can say is I know Maple Ridge has been very successful in proceeding with this. We used to have CSOs in Langley detachment with the RCMP. It was a pilot project. Both went on to become full members, one with Abbotsford PD, one with RCMP. Maple Ridge has revised the program so it would fall under municipal level, which makes more sense, whereas the city would have more say and kind of control of the hours and all that kind of stuff. But if you research Maple Ridge CSOs, they've done a really, really good job of reforming the program. So that's the information I can bring forward. Councillor Stordeboom and then Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I support this initiative. I think that it is in keeping with what our residents would prefer. I can't help but note, however, that in Vancouver, the police liaison program has been removed from their schools. Very surprising. And I can't help but be curious, do we have a school liaison program with a liaison officer here in Langley? Does anybody know?
Yes, we do. We have a full unit, but they have been redeployed with COVID currently.
I understand. Thank you for that update. And yes, I do support this initiative. Thanks for bringing it forward.
Great, thank you. Councillor Martin?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to clarify, in staff exploring these, I'm assuming they'll explore with the RCMP, and then for the further that they'll explore with the bylaw enforcement department. And will there be financial implications? Because that's what I can see from this motion, is the financial implications that this could bring on to our citizens if this goes ahead. So if perhaps staff could answer that question. Thank you.
Mr. Chung, did you want to answer that, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Councilor Martin, yes. When we bring the report back to council, it will include research with respect to the previous CSO program by the RCMP, and we will review what Maple Ridge has done in terms of the makeup of that team and also the cost implications in terms of staff resource and how much it will cost to fund that team and how many members do we need if we're going to pursue this. So we'll bring that information back to council as part of the report. Thank you.
And I do know the information that I was looking at online. I did a little bit of research into it. I think Maple Ridge has 2 community safety officers. It's $60,000 a year, and they work with the bylaws department to offset. So they're basically a social planner slash community enforcement and educator. With the education and then the street. Councillor Martin, did you have another question or is that your hand from before? Okay, I'm going to lower it. Perfect. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, oh, Councillor Wallace, go ahead.
I guess my question is, in a community safety officer, would it be an officer in dress, in protection, and all of that? Is that what we're looking at, or is this what this motion is looking at?
Yeah, this is what the motion, I believe, would look at. And it, I believe Maple Ridge does a crossover of being in a uniform and out and doing the education piece where they're helping businesses and providing crime prevention information. But they also go out in street clothes, just like the ICM team does or anything else like that.
Yeah, I just, I'm in support of this, but when it comes to vulnerability and people's insecurity with the RCMP, for whatever reason it might be, that I like the fact that it could be in street clothing as well. And I understand the in uniform as well. So I just wanted to ask that question.
Oh, that's a fair question. Absolutely. Okay, moving on. Did I call the vote on that? Everybody in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Okay. Okay, correspondence. First one, we have the response from the Fraser Health regarding overdose prevention service.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Kenny.
there's a third item, conflict of interest.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. That's even mine. I didn't even see it here. It's so tiny. In your packages, I answered the questions to the motion that was brought forward on the fly last week about the conflict of interest with me being involved in the OIC. You asked for the information, and that is the information I have given you. Does anybody have any questions to that? Seeing none. Okay, we can move on. All right, correspondence. Thank you, Ms. Kenny. Response from Fraser Health regarding overdose prevention service. Do we want to receive this for information? Put it forward to staff? What is council's wishes with the overdose prevention service? Anyone?
I'll move receipt.
Thank you. All those in favor? Good. Annual Nurses Week on May 10th to 16th, 2021. Remember to thank all your nurses. It's a request to share inspiring words to our nurses working at Langley Memorial Hospital, Community and Public Health, and our internationally educated nurses. We received this from Walter Lumumba, our regional council member, South Fraser Valley Region BC Nurses Union. Receive for information. Councillor Sturtevant.
I wouldn't mind giving a little message of encouragement to our nurses, especially during this time of pandemic. Is that something we can do now, or is it something?
Please go ahead. If you have something to say, I think right now would be an appropriate time to thank our wonderful nurses. Please.
Well, if that's all right, I'd sure appreciate that. Happy Nurses Week. Hello to all our wonderful nurses, and especially to our nurses at Langley Memorial Hospital, our community and public health nurses, and our internationally educated nurses too. I am amazed by our nurses who continue to go beyond the call of duty and serve on the front lines in our war against COVID-19 every day. Hospitals, clinics, extended care homes, and testing sites all seem to be like battlefields as our medical health heroes fight this pandemic, which is a changing and invisible enemy. Nurses understand the sacrifices that they make by showing up for work every day. Nurses know how to encourage good health and healing with treatments and genuine, kind-hearted concern for the well-being of others. Nurses know that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others. Nurses, I can't thank you enough for your commitment to healthcare and for showing up for us all every day. Please know that your optimism, compassion, and kindness do not go unnoticed. Your good nature, professionalism, and passion for your patients' care is appreciated every day. Because of you, we all live in a happier and healthier world. Maya Angelou had a quote that I'd like to share. It is, as a nurse, we have the opportunity to heal the heart, mind, soul, and body of our patients, their families, and ourselves. They may forget your name, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And again, that's Maya Angelou. So thank you, nurses, for your service. We celebrate our nurses this week because we know that we need our nurses every week of the year. Every day is one more accomplishment. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again to the nurses.
Thank you, Councillor Starboom. That was absolutely fantastic. I don't think anything else needs to be said. We absolutely appreciate our nurses and our healthcare system right now. I can't imagine what it's been like this last year. And just so that they know, we support them 100%. So my heart goes out to them. They've made a lot of sacrifices themselves with their families. I know nurses that haven't been home for 3 months and haven't seen their kids. So yeah, thank you for that. Super important. Okay. So sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about that because I've seen what they've had to endure, and it's it's pretty crazy. This COVID has been hard on all of us, and these nurses have been at the front line. So I thank them. Okay, receive for information. All those in favor? That carries. Okay, number 3, day of action against anti-Asian racism, which is today. I know a bunch of us have already posted on Facebook. That came from Doris Mo, Stand with Asians Coalitions. Receive for information. All those in favor? Wonderful. Okay, on to number 4, ICANN City's appeal resolution for UBCM, World Beyond War, Vancouver chapter. Councillor Storterboom, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is in conjunction with a resolution passed by City Council previously, where we sent correspondence on to our federal government associated with banning of nuclear weapons because it's not good for people and it could harm us right here in Langley City. This is a request that we send our resolution on to UBCM for consideration. I've received a lot of positive input. I'd like to know if we have the opportunity to send it forward to UBCM at this time, or if it's something the council would prefer to discuss with other possible resolutions that we would send to UBCM. So unless I hear otherwise, I'd like to make a motion to send our resolution to UBCM.
I got a seconder there. Does anybody want to discuss it? Or Councillor Wallace, go ahead. You're on mute.
Thank you, and through the mayor. I guess the question came up in this motion from another municipality that's put forth the motion, and just for clarity, in putting forth a motion, if another municipality is doing the same motion, how does this work? I just need some clarity in if it's going to be from the city. I can't remember what other municipality.
Yeah, we can get some staff clarification for you, Councillor Wallace. And I believe it's too late. Isn't it too late to put the resolutions for UBCM, or do we still have?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Through the chair, I believe we can put it directly through to the UBCM by June 30th. I do know that the City of White Rock actually has a motion being considered tonight at their council meeting that has been already drafted. I'm not sure that the resolution that was previously passed by council here is actually in the format that would readily be able to be sent to UBCM. I'd have to look into that. So that is my only input at this point.
Does that satisfy Council? I'll get to you in a second, Council Albrecht. I'm not ignoring you.
I think it satisfies me in the fact that we're looking at it seriously and doing it the right way. So I don't want it to be lost. And if it's coming from the city of Langley, I just want to make sure that we're not stepping on anybody else who's drafting a motion, and we're doing it in the right way to the UBCM. So I don't want it to get lost because we haven't. So yeah, so just in our structure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Council Albrecht, were you going to clarify that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to add that the UBCM Resolutions Committee would compile, like if you have multiple jurisdictions with the same or similar motion, a lot of times they'll consolidate and report them under multiple jurisdictions for submission. So it usually gets, let's say, tweaked so that it meets everybody's desires.
Great, thank you. Councillor Sortiman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you all for your comments and questions, and Councillor Albrecht for that clarification. If it is the wish of council to tweak this before we send it to UBCM where it could be further tweaked, I'm okay with that. I think that the principle is there, and everybody can recognize that this is worth moving forward. So yeah, if Ms. Kenny sees that it's not appropriate or carefully drafted for UBCM, then I'd like the opportunity to make it so. I hope that's clear.
Let's go to Councillor Pahal first, because I think he's got.
I have nothing magic. No.
Oh, okay, you had
I
your
wanted
hand
to.
up, so I thought, maybe
I
he's
just
going to answer the question.
No, I mean, my question was for Ms. Kinney. I guess one thing is there a deadline for submission right now? And maybe Mr. Albrecht, you were talking about that. Like, let me actually step it back another way. Ms. Kinney, if we were to just forward the motion as it is, what is it that you would need to do to get it ready, and how much time would that be?
I through the chair to Councillor Pahal, I have brought up the previous motion that was passed, and there are a number of whereas clauses, and the therefore be it resolved, if I could just read it, is that Langley City supports the Mayors for Peace appeal and send a letter to the Government of Canada to break the unacceptable status quo regarding a tolerant nuclear weapons policy by taking decisive steps towards the global elimination of nuclear weapons of war. So that in itself isn't really the clause that we would want for UBCM. I do have City of White Rocks motion, and it is in the format that the motions are to be done for UBCM with this 2 whereas clauses and then the therefore be it resolved. So I do have that I could work from. It's really up to council what they want to include in the wording.
So could we do this as a notice of motion, and then next council meeting put it forward as a motion to UBCM? Would that be suffice?
Certainly, and is there a council member that's going to be bringing forward?
Councillor Sortiman can. He's the one that he can work. You can work with staff, can't you, to tweak the White Rocks, so we can just make it a notice of motion right now and then make it a motion at the next meeting.
It can just, sorry, through the chair, it can just be a motion that will go on the next agenda. As we don't actually have the wording, it can't really be a notice of motion at this point, so it can't go on the minutes. So
thank you for accommodating me.
Okay, so then should we just receive it as information then, Ms. Kenny?
Yes, so if the mover and seconder wish to withdraw their motion, then we could just do a motion for receipt at this time.
Okay, and then we'll deal with it as a motion at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay.
And if I may, I would suggest that any other resolutions that council might be considering should be brought forward around this time too, so that we can maybe send in a package if that's okay. But that's just me talking. So again, thank you for accommodating me. I'll look forward to seeing this on our next regularly scheduled meeting agenda. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sturtevant. Who seconded that? Was that Councillor Wallace? And you're okay with retracting that and going for information? To receive his information?
Most definitely.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so we are going to vote on receiving for information then. All those in favor? Wonderful, that carries. Okay, 5, long-term care, protect the vulnerable, Canadian Federation of University Women. Receive for information.
Move proceed.
Excellent, all those in favor? Wonderful, that carries. All right, long-term care under the Canada Health Act, Canadian Federation of University Women.
Move proceed.
Wonderful, all those in favor? Excellent, that carries. Okay, so we're going to move on to C, which is new business, and a motion to hold a closed meeting. Motion that the council meeting immediately following this meeting be closed to the public as the subject matter being considered relates to items which comply with the following closed meeting criteria specified in section 90 of the community charter. 1, a part of a council meeting may be closed to the public. The subject matter being considered relates to or is one or more of the following. A personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. B, personal information about an identifiable individual who is being considered for a municipal award or honor or who has offered to provide a gift to the municipality on condition. C, labor relations or other employee relations. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were held in public. And L, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under section 98 annual municipal report. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor James. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Okay, and we are going to adjourn the meeting. Motion that the meeting adjourn. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Sturtevant, Councillor Wallace. Remember, thank your nurses and get registered for your vaccination. All those in favor? Wonderful, thank you. We are going to go into, so we have to go on to the other